Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about not only CNN and one of their worst anchors of all time, Brian Stelter, but also we're talking about CNN's lawsuit that they settled with none other than Nick Sandmann. Nick Sandmann, for those who don't know, is a young teen who was part of the Covington Catholic High School kids who were slandered last year by a lot of the liberal mainstream media and press. They went after those kids for wearing red Maga hats in the wrong place at the wrong time, where they were at some kind of demonstration, and a Native American with a drum came in their faces and started yelling at them. And rather than bowing down or running away scared, the kids just kind of stood there and watched. And one of the kids named Nick, he was in the face of the Native American who actually came into his face. Those kids were in a group and the Native came up to them, probably because they were wearing red MAGA hats. And obviously this was a liberal led demonstration, and they went after the kids. They got in their face. They audibly assaulted them. And then next, the mainstream media went after them pretty hardcore. They attacked them in the news, saying these kids did wrong things, saying they were racist, saying they were offending these Native Americans. Like, you name it, they went after them. It was really, really bad. It was really, really big fake news too. It wasn't a true story, and they basically ruined the kids' lives. That's why now these news organizations are all getting sued. Nick Sandmann recently settled with not only CNN, but also more recently, he settled with the Washington Post in some cases that were charging them with many millions of dollars. Now, the settlement will be far less than that, but surely Sandmann is getting a lot of money off of this, as he should. His life was pretty much ruined. He was scared to go out of his house. He had threats against him. Like, he could have gotten hurt really, really bad. And it's all because the press wanted to attack them and bash them, just because, you know, not only were they Trump supporters and Make America Great hats, but also they're white kids who go to a Christian school. You know, they're straight. They're just like, nothing wrong with them. They're just like that thing that the liberals all hate. They hate straight white males, and they also hate Trump supporters. So you put all that together, and that's what's resulted in this story. And specifically what we're talking about today is the next leg in that story. As you can see by this tweet, Benny says, CNN's Brian Stelter is being accused of breaching network's confidentiality agreement with Nick Sandmann, and it may cost him his job, according to L. and Wood. How sad. Yeah. You hate to see it, as they say. And I have to say it myself, like, Brian Stelter has been one of the worst out there. He's like totally biased. He went after these kids, and it looks like a tweet or a retweet or something he commented on may have violated their confidentiality agreement. So basically what happens is, you know, I'm not a lawyer or anything. I'm not one to be very, very legal minded. But from my understanding, like, once you have these kinds of settlements, both sides sign a confidentiality agreement, like an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement or something like that, basically saying both sides agree that they're going to settle, and then they're going to make sure that no one talks about it again. I mean, there's different terms on each settlement. Like, it all depends. Like, sometimes there's just a certain time frame. You have to wait 5 or 10 years before you can comment on it, or sometimes it's forever. Sometimes you can all comment on it. It doesn't matter. I mean, it just depends on the situation. But apparently there was some kind of confidential clause in this case, and it looks like Stelter might have violated it, which I find interesting. And I'm curious what's going on with Brian Stelter. He's got that high-pitched voice that Mark Dice always makes fun of him for. And yeah, it's going to be good. So let's go ahead and saddle up and see what this story has to say. It says, CNN Stelter, as we said before, it says, CNN Stelter accused of breaching network's confidentiality agreement with Sandmann and may cost him his job. So let's go ahead and move forward and see what the article says. Last week, Sandmann announced the Washington Post settled a $250 million defamation lawsuit he filed over its botched coverage of a viral confrontation with a Native American elder who portrayed the Kentucky teen as the aggressor. This followed the multi-million-dollar settlement agreement CNN reached with the teenager back in January. However, Sandmann's attorney, Lynn Wood, spotted a retweet from Stelter of a tweet written by attorney Mark Zaid, who speculated about how much money the teen walked away from the settlement. Those with zero legal experience, as far as I could tell, should not be conjecturing on lawsuits they know nothing about. What kind of journalist is that? Zaid said. I've litigated defamation cases. Sandmann was undoubtedly paid nuisance value settlement and nothing more. So he's trying to argue that he only got a little bit of money, and I'm not sure I buy that either. Like, usually if you ask for $250 million, what I've heard was, like, usually you get like a third. If it's a settlement, you'll get like a third of that. So However, that factors too, it's like multiple millions. A third of 100 million is 30 million. This is 250. So it's about 60, double that. It's about 75 million is a third of that. And, I don't know if he got that much, but I would say he got at least a couple $1,000,000. I mean, you don't ask that high and then settle for $5. You're not going to settle for even like $100,000. I would say $500,000 would be like the minimum that I would guess, but I probably think it's much more. But again, I'm not like a legal person. This person is trying to say it's like a nuisance money, like they're just trying to give him a little bit. And apparently something to do with Brian Stelter that had to make him chime in on that. Wood accused the Reliable Sources host of breaching his network's own confidentiality agreement with his client. This retweet by Brian Stelter may have cost him his job at CNN. It is called breach of confidentiality agreement. Brian Stelter is a liar. I know how to deal with liars, Wood retweeted with a screenshot of Stelter's retweet. And then it says that line again. And then it has Brian Stelter retweeting this tweet from the other lawyer. And basically he's still chiming in. It seems like he's a little butthurt about CNN settling with Nick Sandmann. They can never admit they're wrong. These leftists are really bad. They're really bad liars. They're really biased. And they don't even care if they ruin a kid's life. If he wears a Maga hat, it's like, screw him. And it's pretty ridiculous coming from the side that tries to be these like bleeding heart liberals. They try to pretend they care about everything and they're so charitable. And they say things like, oh, worry about the minorities. Let's watch out for the alphabet people. Let's watch out for the immigrants. And, oh, what about the children? They're always preaching about the children. We got to save the children. They use children as props, though. They don't actually care about kids. They don't actually care about helping people and making things safe. No, they're just using them as a prop, as a way to, get themselves attention. Like kids, can draw on people's heartstrings and make you a little more interested, a little more curious. Say, hey, if you say a bunch of guys died in a fire, you're like, yeah, that's tragic. But if you say a bunch of kids died, it's like, oh, it's got another layer to it. And that's the Democratic strategy. And it's very hypocritical, as we can see. Like, they don't care about all kids. They don't care about white kids or conservative kids. It's just the ones that they favor. I can't decide if it's worse to be Brian Stelter or to believe Brian Stelter. He was never in any court hearing or meeting I was. So why does he act like he knows anything? Sandmann added. So this is Nick himself responding. He's got a picture with Donald Trump Jr. This guy is basically a hero now. I'm really happy that this is working out for him, by the way. I haven't got to say it much in today's video, but this guy is serving it to these mainstream media people. He is really making them pay. I don't think it's going to stop them. Obviously, they're not going to change course, but they'll definitely think twice before they do this. They're going to think, hey, remember Nicholas Sandmann? We had to pay $100 million because we lied about him. Like, we better not do that again. We better be careful, especially the kids, especially to teenagers, like people that are underage. Like, this kid was 16 at the time, which makes it, a little bit more serious. I know I was just talking about Democrats like playing the child card, but they were slandering a minor. So we're really throwing it back in their faces. They're like saying, hey, we should all worry about kids. But then they'll slander this minor and ruin his whole life. Luckily, he has some restitution now and he can rebuild and possibly get himself into a college or something now too. Like, he has a possible future, but it wouldn't have been much. It wouldn't have been this bright without some help from these lawyers. CNN analyst Asha Rangappa appeared to agree with Zaid as well. I'd guess 25,000 to go away, Rangappa wrote. This is them trying to downplay it, 25,000. I mean, first of all, that's a lot of money, even if it was 25. I mean, obviously it's less than 250 million, but yeah, that's like the lowest guess you could even say. I really doubt it's under 100,000. And yeah, it's just them. They're trying to explain this away. They're embarrassed, like they lost this case. These people all work for CNN. They're trying to cover their tracks and say, oh, we just gave him a little money. He just gave him 25,000. Well, even 25,000, that's admitting that they did a wrong thing to someone. They wronged this kid. And if they just give them 25, it's still admitting they're wrong. They signed the confidentiality agreements. They all agreed to let this go and leave the kid alone. But this is them kind of like digging it back up again. It's like they should not be talking about it at all. No one at CNN or the Washington Post or all their different people that are getting sued that defame this kid, they shouldn't mention it at all. That's the thing. They should be totally locked down. Like, their employers should be saying, hey, if you guys mention this, you're fired. Like, you're out of here. Like, we got to get this kid out of our hair. We wronged him. We need to let this go. And I'm sure that's what some lawyers at CNN and the Washington Post are saying. Like, that's the smart thing to do, really. But these guys are so corrupted by politics. They're so empowered too. They think they can do no wrong. They've got all the mainstream media and the public and celebrities in Hollywood in their pocket. Like, these guys think they're bulletproof, but they're really not. They're really losing it in the public. Responding to Rangapa's tweet, Wood wrote, "Heads are going to roll at CNN or Nick Salmon is going to file another lawsuit and reveal the truth." Wood levered a similar change against Washington Post reporter Dan Zak, who suggested on Friday that the Post settled for a small amount in order to avoid a more expensive trial, later adding that it's the American way. Zach has since deleted the tweet, but he doubled down on the assertion, writing, "I delete about 30% of my tweets within 15 minutes. All are deleted within 4 months via tweet delete, except really old tweets, which tweet delete doesn't reach. But I stand by this theory. It's the American way." So he's doubling down and he's admitting that he deletes all his tweets and he has some program that deletes them for him or something. Like, really weird, really strange people. Like, these Twitterverse people are really off the wall, if you ask me. I use Twitter basically just to find stories for the show, but there's some people that are really into it. There's some people that have these bots and they're blocking people and deleting old tweets and saying crazy stuff and taking it back, doubling down. I mean, it's a real cesspool out there. And I think this just goes to show they're just all trying to downplay this. The Washington Post, the CNN, they're trying to say, oh, he didn't get this much money. He didn't get this much money. And I'm just saying, like I said, I don't care if he got $1. I don't care if they gave him $100. They're admitting they did wrong. They wronged this kid. And I don't think it's that low. I think, like the lady said, we'll even go with their lowest estimate. Even if each of these companies gave him 25 grand, I mean, those are only 2 companies. He's suing like 5 other ones. So he could end up with over 100 grand if those all go that small of a settlement. But I highly doubt that. I think the CNN settlement was actually for millions of dollars. And I think Washington Post was at least $1 million, but we're all guessing. I mean, it's just a guess game, but I think we're giving more fair guesses. We're trying to actually ascertain how much he might have got. While on the other side, CNN people and Washington Post people in the mainstream media, they're trying to downplay it and make it seem like it's nothing because they don't think they did anything wrong. They're trying to basically deny that they wronged this kid, but we all know they did. We saw the videos. We were all here last year. So them trying to make this story sound better for them is really, really disturbing. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Also hit that like button to get this thing shared. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell to get notified of new uploads. And also, you can check out our second channel for new videos each week. Until next time, have a great day.